I want to tell you about Zanele. She's a South African activist using photography to challenge a nation that has seen many challenges. This is personal for her. It's not just a project or a story. This is her life. And through her work, documenting the lives and deaths of South Africa's queer culture, she's making a difference, a record, a statement. As her photographs not only document community, they build it and give it voice, identity, and empower it. Zanele offers testimony in the great tradition of social documentarians, photographers committed to civil rights and human rights, from David Goldblatt to Donna Ferrato. Brave individuals who looked through that viewfinder hoping to change the world, and did.
Forevermore, there's a special star that shines every evening in your eyes. Special star that shines, it's gonna hit a lullaby. Special, I'm gonna put Vaseline. Good. I'm Zanele Muholi, reporting live from South Africa. I'm a visual activist. I take photographs. The kind of work that I do is on queer politics, gender politics, politics of race. I'm fascinated by LGBTI individuals in different spaces. I've learned how beautiful this place is, how important our lives are, and why we should preserve a history about our own people, about us. Very, very interesting township. I've done a lot of shots here. I shot the first gay wedding here in 2002. I don't even know that there are lesbians who own dogs. This is for the first time that I know someone who owns a dog. Aye. The light is good here. Yeah. I'm going to shoot a follow-up portrait of Tumi. I used to be a hairstylist.
Really?
Yeah. We had a life before we came out. Somebody asked me how influential am I when it comes to these portraits. And I said to people, I just want people to look good. Oh. I really, really want people to be fresh. We're going to Limpopo Pride.
I'm coming. When I leave the address.
We're connected by photography. I was doing photo shoot here in Guatemala, and I thought that she was just a very nice person to be in the Faces and Phases series that I'm working on. You have young generation that is growing up now who doesn't share maybe the same, commonalities like lesbians who were out there in the 90s or late 80s before South Africa gained independence. The young lesbians now, they are socialites, connected by the social medias and all of that, and they're free when it comes to photographs, etc., etc. I know maybe some people get surprised when you start photographing.
I was surprised, but at the same time it was fun. I had fun and I didn't know that I'm photogenic. So since then, I like to take myself pictures.
So this is 3 years later. We are in the same township, and the township is so popular with
the killings.
With no gay lives. There are a lot of gay people in Guatemala. And also it has since become notorious for hate crimes because in 2008, a known black lesbian was brutally murdered here. 2012 was one of the most painful years in our history. We lost a lot of members of our communities. And hate crimes specifically, curative rapes and lesbian murders became one of the brutality that is stained in our brains forever. We live in fear. Death happened to bind us. Hate crimes have become a binding factor for the LGBTI communities. We come together to either give support or to confirm that somebody has been killed. Then that person becomes a statistic. Another case number becomes part of our history. And what are we doing about it? Do we always go and attend funerals and then after funerals you go home, you wait for another funeral? What? You have to document. You are forced to document.
Transformation by
I don't only do
Transformation by Zanele Muholi.
No, by you. This is your head. I'm using visuals as a way of creating awareness, capturing the moments, those truths and realities the world will learn about our cultures. I could give you something tangible and say, feel it, this is it, see. You invited to be in that space even though you were not there. Please put it in and out. We're shooting faces and faces, not fashion. Yeah. There is the other side of me when I perform. There is the other side of me when I'm me. How will you engage with me? You look so gay, yeah? Actually, you look like a drag queen. Most of the time, I work with people that I know. They're no strangers to me. I call the people who are in my photographs participants because you partake in a project that will inform many audiences.
And when it comes to these young lesbians you are teaching?
Any person who's interested in learning is welcome to learn how to take photographs. I provide cameras as long as a person will be able to document what will then become a contribution towards Inganyeso, which is the organization that I formed. One cannot do these major projects alone, which is why I invited people to come on board and work with me. And it means that it's not lonely anymore. Take 5. I started this project called Inganyeso to ensure that people who are featuring in my photographs get a platform to share their own lives and work. People get to read about sex, people get to read about anything that they will never, in as much as South Africa is so democratic, they'll never see that kind of text in the mainstream media. Most of the team members, we are black lesbians. Hello. People occupy different positions within the Inganyeso crew. Bongi is a documenter, and Lerato is a graduate. She's a journalist, and we just posted a new story on Pep Smear that she wrote this morning. Now I had to beg Lerato to cut that hair, and look how beautiful this person is. We did Lerato's portrait in 2010, so we're gonna have a nice follow-up shot. I train and I will continue to train with or without funding. Because if I wait for someone to validate my existence, it will mean that I'm shortchanging myself. Recently, we had to decide whether we buy a fridge where we live or we buy a new lens. So we sleep on the floor, it's nice. Documenting with my crew, it's fabulous. I love the people that I work with. A lot of people are reading this Pep Smear thing.
For, lesbian or even butch women, it's something that's, if I don't know if I can say taboo. But I don't know, you said you need me to revise it.
No, you have to do part 2.
Part 2, what's part 2 about?
I don't think that you gave it your all, like how you write when you tackle the issues of hate crimes and other. What would you like to read about in the mainstream?
Not even read, even when seeing, I'd like to see an advert of a family where it's the mother and the baby, and they're fighting germs in the household. It shouldn't only be about the violence and the homophobia.
We want to bring about change in spaces that are queerphobic. We still have religious leaders who want to use homosexuality as scapegoat for their own hate. Instead of dealing with poverty, instead of dealing with the corrupted systems that we find ourselves in, and that's what leads to many hate crimes. See where there's white concrete wall? Is where Noxolo Nogwaza was found. Noxolo Nogwaza is a victim of hate crime who was brutally murdered. Her head was crushed with a big stone. Her teeth were all over the place. Noxolo Nogwaza's children are not the first to be orphaned by hate crimes. What will people say to the children what happened to their mothers? Noxolo's case is still outstanding. I don't know how far do they investigate these cases. We all document that lesbian funeral. Every person who has a cell phone with a camera, it doesn't matter what quality. And all of us come together in one space and download and share. You make that document viral. We want to say to our government, this is what I'm talking about when I talk of a lesbian funeral. It's my wish that we could find positive lesbian icons on Wikipedia as well, other than to always find brutal murders. You Google black lesbians in South Africa, you'll see what you see there. There's nothing that focuses on same-sex love versus these hate crimes. When do we start talking about intimacy? I produce pictures that are intimate because I'm an intimate being. This intimacy that disrupts the perpetrator leads to us being killed. It starts by the same-sex love that is disorganizing the mindset of the homophobe. More education is needed. Mainstream communities need to come on board and help us and ensure that there is no other hate crime. Projecting positivity sometimes can lead to the change. Projecting brutality and violations could lead to further violence. So I think that we need to find a balance in which we project these realities.
Let's go to the beach, eat, let's go get away. They say what they gonna say. Hello, beauty.
Inkanyiso is at Limpopo Pride 2013. I came with the Inkanyiso crew last night. Once we're done here, we're going to put it up on social networks to make sure that people who might not be here understand what is taking place and get the visuals. People think that pink cities are Cape Town, Durban, and Johannesburg. People cannot even imagine that there is Limpopo Pride. It's very important for us to say that LGBTI individuals are all over. Any space is possible. So we're here to celebrate with the people of this province. It's about saying, I want to be counted in South African history. Claiming my full citizenship, it means that I have to write that part of history.
Let's have it, DJ. Let's have the music there.
It's really exciting for me to be here in this great theatre at this great festival, talking to you. I had my first proper conversation with you this morning, and that was a wonderful experience. As Vince mentioned, I have a background myself in representational activism in the lesbian and gay field, and there's something, I mean, Britain in the early 1980s was a very different place than South Africa, than the world now, than South Africa now. I'm not trying to compare experiences, but there's one thing that wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't, the gay scene at the time wouldn't, a gay white boy wouldn't be allowed to question a black lesbian. That's just kind of the hierarchy of things. But you're very comfortable in all, everywhere.
Maybe, but the commonality between us is love. Whether a white gay man, a black lesbian in one space, we just love who we love and share whatever with the public.
You said something interesting this morning, which is like, I'm a gay man. I mean, like, I'm like a gay man. You've got the chutzpah of a gay man. I mean, what was that about?
I like the edge and how easygoing gay men, when they cruise, they do their thing. And I always say to my friends, whenever when I come back in my next life, I'll come out as a gay man.
So the pictures are rolling. We're going to chat. Sometimes we'll stop on a particular picture. I mean, tell us about some of the pictures that we're looking at.
Mostly, or most of the time, I work with people that I know, people that I'm comfortable with. I don't work with models because I can't afford to pay them. And I don't work with subjects. I just discovered 3 S's, like the studio, the seater, and the subject. Those 3 S's don't work for me. So the images that you see are of people that I love dearly and people that I've seen for the longest time progress. You know, like the person who's on screen right now is Christina Mavuma. She's one of the few trans women that I've been following and documenting over a period of time.
The project is one of representing a community, a community beyond yourself. I mean, the mission is to change South Africa and to change Africa. I mean, is that fair?
Yeah, it's fair, because we are at a period in our lives where there is high level of homophobia in different African parts. A lot of LGBTI individuals who happen to be like you and I, they are encountering a lot of hate crime, hate speech from the leaders that's supposed to support them and respect them. And a lot of people have been killed, a lot of people have been displaced simply because of who they are. We know of the anti-homosexuality bill that was passed in Nigeria, and before Nigeria, there was anti-homosexuality bill that affected Ugandans, and it meant that a lot of Ugandan LGBTI people had to leave the country and seek refuge in different places abroad. So what I'm trying to do here is to bring about a kind of tool in which we speak on these atrocities and this kind of displacement, and also to change how historical documents, mainstream spaces are tuned. Because when you come out in any space, it's like you have to negotiate a space and say, hello, well, I'm here. And then people are not willing to listen. And then it means that a lot of our people have to deal with the most queerphobic and homophobic spaces at workplace, at schools, at churches, in different public spaces. It's like when you see two gay men kissing, it becomes such a stare. When you see lesbians kissing, it's like, oh my God, what's going on? And people start praying for you as if there's something wrong that you have done. So I just want to change a visual history in ways that it's never been done in Africa. I told myself that I need to set a precedent in which even the person who is not conceived right now get an opportunity to see a gay grandfather with pride, to see a gay grandmother or a lesbian grandmother with pride. I see us in space where we have our names, become those street names of important people who have made a difference in our communities. Beyond just gay pride, where we have the flare and the feathers and rainbow. I just need to make sure that we are full-time in space without being apologetic about it.
Your work is being seen in the international museum and art world. You're becoming quite well known as a figure, and also because of the recent book that was published. But how is your work being distributed and seen in Africa, and particularly Uganda and Nigeria, you just mentioned?
I've never shown in many countries in Africa. I have worked in places like Uganda, documenting activists who some of them are featuring in Faces and Phases. I've worked in Botswana, I've worked in Malawi. There's a queer project that we worked on in Malawi. It's called Queer Malawi, which was such a success. There are different places where I get to share my work, but showcasing and also being in museums in Africa. I mean, we don't have many museums like here.
Mm-hmm. But presumably through social media and other channels, you are known and people are following you in those other countries. I mean, you have that a reputation there at this point.
We try, and I have to be honest that I don't do it alone. I have a lot of young individuals and my friends who are giving me support, and some of them are here in the audience tonight. And I don't work alone. I won't even claim to be working alone. And without my friends' support and also the participants who are in my photographs, it would be impossible to distribute. So I rely on people that I trust, and each time we do it, we need to make sure that people's safety is important.
Can we stop at this picture? Who's that lying on top of you? That is you? No, is that you?
The bottom is me, but I'm not really the bottom in real life. And then the person who's on top of me is Caitlin, and the picture is called Caitlin and I, and it was produced in 2009 when I had a residency at MIT. She's an artist and a graduate. She was at MIT at that time. She was doing her own project for a thesis, and obviously wanted us to collaborate. I needed something, she needed something, we had to do something. That's how we ended up in that position.
By the way, it's pretty clear, though she's lying on top, that you're not the bottom, just from the picture.
In reality, these are the dynamics and politics of being in interracial relationships, where sometimes somebody dominates, the relationship. When this image was taken, I was in an interracial relationship, and there are other photos that were produced after this or as part of this, and it related on these dynamics. And there's not much of the interracial relationships that we have or that we find ourselves in that is much written about, especially in the African context. South Africa, where people of mixed race would not be allowed to marry, and that was under Immorality Act of 1957 or before then. So I was thinking of how this relationship would have been perceived problematic if it was transparent or in the open at all. So this is just South Africa, assuming that we're not in America, because it's easier to do this here. So I was thinking of if this image was circulated in South Africa and how it would have put so many people's lives, at risk. But then it's about like the mixed relationships, South Africa being a space with 4 races, where we're not scared to talk about the dynamics of race, where you think of like white people, Indian people, colored people, and black people who are then placed at the bottom. So the image was meant to bring about or to create a new dialogue of something that existed in heterosexual lives, and you change it to make yourself comfortable.
I mean, it's more political than it is about the intimate. You talked about intimacy in the film and how important representing intimacy or an intimate being is. I mean, maybe it's both a political statement or a political act to make the picture and a representation of intimacy.
Yeah, in a way. If she was mine, I would have said so, but she wasn't my girlfriend.
Okay. But tell us about your, you can continue with the pictures, but tell us about your photographic practice. You talk about participants rather than subjects. You talk about visuals rather than photographs or pictures, the way most of the photo community. You've got a very distinct way of thinking about your relationship to your subject, what the pictures are that go out into the world.
I think as a person who takes photographs or who produce photographs, I don't like that distance. The minute we say subject, it's like you're not allowed to connect with the person that you photograph. Sometimes don't even need to know that person. So I just made sure that I connect and try to relate with people that I photograph in my work by all means, because those are the people who make it possible for me to be seated in this space. Those are the people who made it possible for me to have work at the Freedom Park. So they can't be subject. So I try by all means to bring the people as my own family. This is my LGBTI family, and I'm more connected to them than my bio family. So it's that connection that matters to me the most, the relationship, because I look at photography and the practice more of a relationship than the distance that sometimes the photographers create between themselves and what they call subjects.
Presumably, you're also, I mean, as with the participant you were working with that we saw in the film, you're also empowering people to realize themselves visually, if you know what I mean, to make their visual presence felt. So it is an empowerment practice too. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's fair, and it's very, very important. Because you're talking of a history, we're all trying to document, we all try to create a history that we never had. And also, we're all trying to form a foundation that will speak to many people who will come after us. So in that way, people need to be empowered. We have to explain what's going on and what's going to happen after. So we can't just leave things loose, assuming that people will understand. It's complicated at times because some people don't get it. I won't even lie to you. Some, they just don't get it. But then, bit by bit and through time, people will get the message as you move along. Yeah.
So, why do you talk about visuals? That's quite an unusual choice of words, to talk about your work as visuals.
I think the minute I say visual or visuals and visualization, it's like it penetrates here. Whereas if it's a photograph, it's light, you know, it doesn't quite get there. And I feel that I'm doing something if I'm into it, because then it's a process. You have to use your six senses before you even take a photo. And when you document or take that particular visual, there's that connectedness that exists between the two beings who are engaging, you know, to come up with the final product, you know, that final something that speaks, yeah.
Because you're really co-author of these pictures in a very distinct way. So, tell us about how the print fits into this. I mean, you're represented by at least one gallery that I know of. I'm sure some others around the world. How do you feel about the print as an object?
Before it becomes the print, I work with a good friend who lives in New York and also Delaware. Her name is Ellen. She's here in the audience. She's the one that decides on what is print or what's not. And I don't understand mainly these things. I'm still learning after 10 years.
Okay.
I don't like to think about subjects and objects, but for survival, we end up getting into that space. And also to be grateful to the galleries that represent us and many of us, because it's hard to get access to resources to continue with the project that we produce.
Same for all the other photographers in the room at some level, I think.
Yeah. So to be represented or to work with gallery somewhere somehow benefits the artist. Because then, especially when you do queer work like mine, I don't have energy to be writing proposals, convincing homophobes to give me money to produce. I don't. And I don't even know how to write proposals, because I just reached that space to say, this is work. Whoever that is willing to support me will be working with me and working with many other people. And that person needs to understand the importance of our history. That person will be coming on board as an ally, also as a person who intervenes, you know, that intervention. So it goes beyond just objects.
All collecting involves an element of, I support your action.
Of course.
It's a kind of, it's an act of identification. Of course, the object itself has to be...
That's why we have to find a new way to do away with objects. Because like we're talking about plastics, not about realities.
Yes.
We talk about something that is far distant. Maybe there is another way, you know, that could place that so that whoever that collects, and also photo lovers, to know that the images are not just objects, they're beyond that. And I don't have the word for it. Like how I removed the subject and came up with participant, maybe I'll have to find a new word, you know.
A new word for print?
No, for object.
Okay.
Yeah.
So apart from the money, which is, obviously everybody gets that, we all sell something in order to do the work we want. How does being a figure, how does having a show in the Brooklyn Art Museum help your mission in Africa?
Okay. We are at Brooklyn Museum currently until November 1. It's, again, it's not about me. Having that work there means that that space will open up for many gay people from Africa. I don't know if the images that are there happen to be of a black lesbian from Africa, and yet there were many who were there before me who never had an opportunity to be there. So I think in a way, it is meant to pave the way for many Africans who will come after me, like I said, those who are still to be born, etc., etc. It means a lot, and it's a very important space, especially to be placed next to that dinner party. So we're all having a party. Yeah. And also, it brings about a new kind of dialogue in which I share with the people back at home the meaning and the politics of being in such spaces, and also the importance of being in such spaces, and how we could bring our activism in spaces that are impossible, because nobody could imagine how visual activism sits in, you know, museums and also galleries without thinking of how we speak to the non-converted. It's one thing we speak at each other as gay people, but we need the mainstream in order to survive and also to educate them, not to be tolerated, to educate them about how we live our lives, to demand respect and recognition. So I'm happy that we are there for once in history, that one get that kind of recognition and respect and have that work in that space where many people get to be educated about African queer politics. Or I can't say every person who goes to that show is gay, but then there are children who go to that space, and that space is used as an educational platform for many. So I'm happy that people who are from the area get to see themselves, you know, through faces and phases, get to question, and they get to read about what is going on beyond their own personal zones.
We're looking at faces and phases now. I'm going to ask you about that, but just before we do that, I mean, you're here at the kind of heart of the photo community in the USA, but it's really a very much a global community, I think, and it's a very distinct thing where people have a very distinct identification with. Are you part of the photo community? Do you see yourself as part of the photo community? Is this your community, your other community that you're with now?
It's been exciting to see work that I've never seen before, and also to be in a kind of space where people love photographs, you know. I came here when Larry spoke the other night, and people were really fascinated. The house was full, and I was thinking, for once, I get to feel something that other people are feeling.
Can we make you a member of this community too? I think that just happened.
No, I'm here. I'm here. I don't know when will my gold card be delivered at the hotel. I'm here. I'm with you. Yes.
So tell us about the Faces and Phases project.
Faces and Phases is a lifetime project. And I started working on this project in 2006. And next year will mark 10 years since I started working on this patiently. And it features mostly young activists and older activists who are doing work and whose lives, you know, are at risk in many ways in South Africa and beyond South African borders. And how it came about, I lost a friend in 2007 in March. She was a survivor of hate crime. She encountered 3 incidents of hate crime, of curative rape, and she ended up being HIV positive, and she succumbed to complications in 2006 and 7, and she passed in March. And she was only 25 years old. So that broke my heart, you know, going through that period. We attended a funeral, and the resistance from family, you know, because we didn't need to speak about HIV, et cetera, So I was really heartbroken. And then I thought to myself that, you know, when portraits are part of our obituaries programs, if at all, you know, you look at your newspaper, you see the obituary section with portraits, and it means that portraiture becomes that important and that important document in which we refer to something. So we lost my friend, and then I look at the community around me, how important it was to have portraits of each person taken. Also, at the same time, I was more into couples, and then the issue with the couples where people break up, and then it means you can't hear the picture and say, take your piece, and so on, because other people move on with their lives, others do with us, some they are straight now, which is okay with me. But you can't keep the other piece because then it doesn't become a complete picture, you know. So then I thought it was safer and easier to do this single portrait. Even though somebody was partnered, it meant that at least somebody had her own life, she was her own person, or he was her own person, et cetera, et cetera. So this then becomes my lifetime project, that I told myself that as long as I live, I'll have to go back to some of the people and do follow-ups. But as the people are participating...
That's the phases, is it? It's the transitional process.
Yeah, the progress also. And it means that people who are in the series get to write their own life stories. So when you look at each and every phase, you should think of that person's biography and that person's life story. To have this image beyond just a framed image on the wall, but to know that this person is connected to so many other individuals in space. It's like you and I married, maybe. Not that it's going to happen.
Maybe. Don't discount it. Don't rule it out.
So you are you, I'm me, you have your 10 friends, I have my 20 friends, and then those 20 friends become members of the community. So we document, annually. Yeah. Like the person on screen now is Lerato. The image was taken in 2010. She's the coordinator of the project. So then whatever change that is made along the way, we also work together and somebody has to move on. So the picture before this one was 2010. This picture is 2013. I've done her 2014. Ellen is busy fixing 2014, 2015. And we grow up together in that way. Yeah, so that's what I wish to do with everybody as well, so that if we don't make it tomorrow, at least people have something tangible that they could refer our lives in, and then learn or read more about our lives beyond just the images of just Black lesbians. A lot of people are talented young individuals and people who are professionals in their own rights. So I just happen to do my part. They also have their own lives in which they contribute to our larger society.
How does most of your participants are based in South Africa, correct? I mean, there's a few from other countries. How are these pictures circulated at home in South Africa?
Okay. Right now, Faces and Phases book, which is 2006 to 2014, we have exhibitions which are massive, like here. When I have an exhibition, I open up the gallery spaces and I paint the white walls black. The people come in space and then we celebrate ourselves. That's what I do. I'm doing that whole notion of who comes to the gallery space, who has the right to be at a museum, etc., etc. So distribution depends on those who are featuring in it. There is an image that I like that then becomes part of the series, and there's an image that I give it to the person who is in the images. So you say maybe in an hour's time we take maybe 10 shots, and then I'm only looking for that one image that speaks to me. And then I sometimes give the rest to the participants. Before the show is on, like for the book, for instance, we have 250 portraits. And the aim is to give every participant her own copy or his own copy.
Of the book?
Of the book. So like how you buy the book here, the participants have their own copy that they get for free.
Did that happen?
Yes.
Excellent.
We haven't done all the 250, but bit by bit we are sharing. And then I also requested my friends and individuals who care about the image and who are into visual anthropologies, etc., to write reviews. That's another form of distribution, because this book is used mainly for education.
Can we stop on this picture a minute? Because you were telling me, I'm sorry, I forget their name, this person's story.
Okay, this is Lungile Dladla. She's born in 1986. She's from Davidson, which is one of the townships in the east of Johannesburg. She was at the funeral there.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the person was singing at the funeral. I met her in 2010, and I took this image in 2011, December, during the 16 Days of Activism Month. It was towards the end of 16 days. And I listened, which is what we need to do as photographers, to listen to the people that we photograph sometimes and do not rush to take images. So she told a story, and I asked her to write a story, then for me to tell her story. So she wrote about how she was raped by a person the day when the family buried her aunt, and it was on Valentine's Day, 2010. She and a friend were raped at the same time by a guy from neighborhood who knew that she was a lesbian. And later on, she discovered that she was HIV positive. And her story is called I'm Not a Victim, I'm a Victor. and it's on Inkanyiso blog, where she's telling about how she had to deal with the police to ensure that the perpetrator was arrested. So you're dealing with like young, brave activists who want to change the system and also want to speak out, you know, of all of these atrocities and also challenges that we are facing in our communities. So she's just a young South African whose maybe future is uncertain due to that incident that disorganized their life.
Is the hate crime situation getting worse? Are more hate crimes happening, or is it?
There's quite a number of brutal murders that have taken place over the past few months, counting a case that happened last September, and also another incident where a young lesbian was brutally murdered in Pretoria, in Hammanskraal, which is part of Gauteng. She was in her early 30s and was killed around the corner from her neighborhood. So the hate crimes, worse does not mean 10. Just one case is worse than anything else. The fact that a young person's life or a human being's life, especially that person if is known to be queer and that person's life is cut short due to your sexuality and your gender expression is wrong. So I'll say it worse if any human being's life is claimed or if that person's life is violated. So there's quite a number of cases that make things worse because we're dealing with families here who are losing their children simply because of sexuality and gender expression. We're losing colleagues at workplace, we're losing classmates, we're losing our friends, we're losing our lovers, we're losing human beings that we love dearly because of homophobes in space and also the thick-headed leaders, you know. So it's been worse because a lot of youngsters have been killed.
But do you personally have reason for optimism? I mean, you feel, there's an optimism that you get from your pictures about building a new society in a way. Do you feel personally optimistic about the future?
I'm positive about the future. You know, I am born in South Africa at the height of apartheid. Racism claimed a lot of people's life. It's still happening here in the US. Mm-hmm. It will end one day. But then, by all the challenges that we're facing doesn't mean that we need to slow down. We cannot afford to be delayed in any ways, but it means that we have to continue to live under those heavy circumstances. So I have hope that hate crime will end just like how apartheid ended in South Africa.
You've got such a articulate philosophy of your practice, of your approach. What were your influences? What did you grow up on? What were your photographic influences? Who taught you?
I came out late, not as a lesbian.
You came out the womb.
I came out in the scene very late. There are so many people that I like and whose lives matters to me. My inspiration happened to be my mother. And unfortunately, she's no longer here, but she's here with us tonight for sure. She passed in 2009. I grew up from a very big family. My mom worked as a domestic worker, and there is a project in which I am my mother, which is also visual. And I like to tell the story of my mom, you know, a person that is me, that is no longer there, who worked, etc., etc. So that was the person who kind of like pushed something. Because then I questioned a lot of things around me to say, how were other things happening? How are we poor? How did we end up being 8, 9, 10 in a small, you know, four-roomed house? The poor education that I consumed as a kid, and of which I like to project that and share with the viewer the kind of system that really, you know, placed us differently, you know. And, you know, racial politics, gender politics, all of these things are part of my identities, etc., etc. But there's a woman that I like so much. Her name is Cindy Wemagona. She's a South African writer. She's a mother. I think she's 70 now. I like her work, and she did a small book called Please Take Photographs.
Huh.
She
What a
lives
great
in Cape Town. I like her work. It just speaks to me. It just like brings all those layers, and every text to me that I read of her, I want to shoot, because she confirms that kind of possibilities in life, etc., etc. And then when I started moving around the queer circles, photo spaces, I discovered Rotimi Fanigayode.
Who is one of the photographers that was commissioned as part of the Bodies of Experience
Yeah.
exhibition I did in London.
Yeah, I love Rotimi. I like the fact that a black gay man took initiative at a period when it was impossible for people to do it. Oh, that's Sika, by the way, the person on the right. One of the youngsters who enter these beauty pageants, and they are butch. I mean, it's impossible in real world to have butches for a beauty contest to win nothing, but to push lesbian visibility in a different way. Shares will be performing tonight. She's with me with Christy. She's one of the youngsters that I'm mentoring, and I always think she's a hip-hop artist and also a traditional healer. I'm moving around with her in different spaces, and she's also one of those people that make me want to work some more, because I want to see as she progresses, as she reaches, or she reaches her dream, yeah. So Cindy Makona becomes that reference point. I like the work of David Goldblatt, who is one person that I'm indebted to for my life, and a person who gave me an opportunity to gain the kind of education, university education. I could not have afforded it if he didn't intervene. So he helped me to cover for my education.
Did he personally coach you? Did he recognize your talent? And
No,
well, he must have done.
David Goldblatt started Market Photo Workshop. A lot of us come from Market Photo Workshop, a lot of us. I come from that space. That was a space for me to heal, and a space for me where I made sense. So I think I could say that period that I spent at Market Photo Workshop was when I met my photo family, like here. I made so much sense. I could articulate my issues. I had support from John Fleetwood, but David Goldblatt became that person, because I said to myself, there are so many people who are activists in different ways, but it's very rare for people who came way before us, who could be our grandfathers, but he obviously would have been my father, to give back to the community. This is a man who gave us the school, not the money. So later on in life, he paid for my education, and I got my master in fine arts through him. So I'll always be thankful to Goldblatt for that. And also I needed someone who look at my work not with a queer eye. Queers, they know queers. We know what we're doing. So I needed a straight man who is a father, who is also a photographer, to critique my work. So he wasn't there to babysit or to nurse me. And anything that he didn't agree with, he'll say, this doesn't work for me, speaking as a straight man or also as a father, understanding South African history. So I'll always be thankful for him rescuing me, and for him, critiquing my work and educating me in ways that no other person could. Because when I started, I didn't have much reference. No reference. The only reference document that I had came from from America or from Europe. So I didn't have much queer visual content that I could speak to or refer back to. And when I saw the work of Rotimi, I was quite excited. When I saw, a polyester suit of Robert Mapplethorpe, I was like, okay, man, I'm
Polyester
doing
suit?
it. Yeah.
Why? I mean, why is that
That picture is queer beyond repairs.
Okay.
And nobody, as lesbians, like I said, the freedom that some of the gay men, I don't want to generalize, especially for some gay men who are not out as you, to say that you look at something that you're longing for and it's given to you, how you lust for something, etc., etc. I cannot photograph a female genitalia and fantasize about it and project it like how Mapletop did. And because I'll be
Nor can most
crucified by
people.
a lot of people. And I don't need unnecessary prayers, you know. So, yeah, I like it. I could write for days just to talk about that
can I
one
commission you to
particularly.
write about that? That's something
I'll write
I've got
about
a
routine.
magazine I know might be interested to hear.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
There are some many other individuals whose work I like so much. But, yeah, the beat goes on,
Okay.
I guess. We still edit.
Okay. And self-portraits are important. I think we're going to come to some at the tail end of the selection. But what's the role of the selfie in your universe?
This is such a cliche, but it's used much for healing. And they say you have to do some self-introspection. So I've been thinking a lot about that. The self-introspection equals to selfie equals to self-consciousness. It says deal with yourself before you interfere with other people's business.
Very good.
As photographers, sometimes we divorce ourselves from us. So for the project that you're about to see here, it's going to show now. So I was thinking to myself, I've experienced so much pain, I've endured so much pain, I've witnessed so much pain, and Ellen is working tirelessly trying to deal with my pain, and this is what I'm working on currently.
Can we stop at that picture? What are we looking at?
Looking at my beautiful self.
We are looking at your beautiful self.
Looking at me.
And you
Looking at me.
Is that your hair? I mean, what tell us about what's that's about.
You're looking at me.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's it. That's all you want to say.
I love me.
We love you.
Yeah, man.
We love you.
Before I make love or give love to the next woman, I have to deal with me. Yeah, so you're looking at me, the true me. I don't paint my face. Ellen knows the trick. And this image represents so many things that are unnerving, unsettling, queer, creepy, and so on and so on. But most of all, like these self-portraits will be 365 taken over a period of time. I work on this project and I stop at some stage because I had issues. I try to shoot every day. And why I was late today, because I had to shoot before I came here.
Because you had to shoot, or because it was a particular
I had
picture?
to shoot in
Okay.
Virginia to mark this moment in history.
You did a selfie here.
Yes,
you
I
did a
did.
self-portrait here. Okay.
So each and every of these
can
portraits, I'll say self-portrait and portrait of the self, because this you have to swim swap, yeah? Self-portrait and portrait of the self. And the portrait of the self will be when I really can't get it and somebody could get it, but of me, directed by me, in ways in which I like to be done, yeah? So each and every image represent a particular case in history. Like here, it's a mine worker, and it talks on a particular case in South African history. Some of you know of the Marikana case. A lot of miners were shot down in 2012 August. So here I was just projecting that reality. A lot of people were orphaned, like children orphaned, women without their husbands. And I was thinking, when that incident happened, what about gay men who maybe or might have lovers in those mines, and how the portrait of the widows and the portrait of the victims was projected. And I was thinking of that one gay man who had a lover in
There
those
was
mines.
one particular out gay man.
No,
Or
nobody has spoken of that. So I queerize everything. I bring it home. Yeah. So I was thinking, I wonder what happens to those gay men who lost their lovers, who were mine workers, who won't be recognized simply because of their gender and simply because of their being.
But it's not without this. The series is not without glamour. What's
I
this one?
I identify as butch, but sometimes I like to perform femme because it works, and also to undo the notion of like lesbians are ugly women. We're actually beautiful women and happen to love the same sex. This is just me performing, but also being serious about how these things works. And I'm fascinated in this particular case, the iconic images of Grace Jones.
Ah, yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know, when
got
you
it.
think of those beautiful images that made the woman look otherwise, whereas maybe other people did not even wish to consume them, but we cannot erase those images in history because she was indeed a true diva, you know.
Yeah.
So, but to be honest, and also to be back to me, and back to you as well, I don't know how much magazine editors and many other things and people who deal with photographs, how ready are the magazine editors and those who own the magazine and media are ready or willing to have black people in their covers.
In the
The cover of the magazine.
Covers.
Yeah. I'd say maybe as a person who works for Aperture, you have heard about maybe 100 books. Maybe 10% of your 100 books has black faces. Maybe you lose sales. Because when I started, my friend had a magazine. It was a lesbian magazine. And I said, my dream was to be in the cover of her magazine. And she said, oh, we lose a lot of clients because a lot of people were not ready for black faces as the covers of the magazine. I'm talking about South Africa, 2000, 2001, 2003. Her advertisers were not ready for the black covers. And it meant that anything that was black could be in the middle or wherever, but not as the cover. And of maybe 20 copies that she had of that magazine, she had 4 blacks. So I think here we're revisiting and talking about the politics of this black without crucifying the editors, but to rethink and revisit. Same like how I'm so happy to be here, I must say and declare and thank everybody who made it possible for me to be here. I can't count people by names, but to be given a space, an open space, not to be shoved in some closet at LOOK3, and be in the open and be free. No? To be here. I'm in a public space. And I won't make any demands. There's nothing that I will ask for. I don't need no silver, no gold, no platinum. I'm in a public space. For once, I feel so free. And for once, I feel so happy and say somebody listened. And I'm given two-sided, you know, waterproof material. You can't deny our existence. And I'm honestly thankful. I didn't know that there was LOOK3. I keep on being, you know, people recommend these spaces and I get excited. And also to be in the mainstream space when you talk of like, where are we, how do I feel and so on, to all the LOOK3s, triples.
Well,
I'm thankful.
we'll put you on the cover.